What's up, everybody? It's Jared with Capture the Magic. And when it comes to Epic Universe, there's been lots of speculation about what the impact of this new park would be, what kind of impact would it have on the overall theme park market, and more specifically, how would it impact Walt Disney World? And as this park is just now about 3 months old, we're starting to get some real-world feedback here about this park and what its impact is, and at least according to Universal, they seem to be very happy with it, as Mark Woodbury was at a Bank of America conference, kind of a Q&A session here, and he had a lot of things to say here, but one of the more interesting things that he did say was that they are already seeing market share gains from Epic Universe being open after just 3 months. So to further talk about this, we have an article from Blog Mickey, so we're going to dive into this and see what Mark Woodbury had to say on the matter. And I will just say this Q&A session that he did do, he had a lot of things to say, so I'm going to do a separate video talking about all of the things that he did say, answering some of these questions. But in this video specifically, we're just going to talk about this kind of interesting point about the market share, which is something I have talked a lot about over definitely the past year regarding Epic Universe and its potential impact into the theme park market. In a recent Q&A at the Bank of America Media Conference, Universal Destinations and Experiences CEO Mark Woodbury pulled back the curtain a bit on the early performance of Epic Universe. I'll just say right now, by the way, I love Mark Woodbury. Everything I have read about the guy, everything I hear him say, the way he conducts himself, I'm a massive fan. And he has a long background in the creative end of things when it comes to Universal Studios. And that's one thing I love about him running the parks, is that he comes from a background of basically just trying to deliver experiences for guests. And I think that's a great thing to have in somebody that is running your theme parks, personally speaking. As you may know, Universal Epic Universe opened back in late May in Orlando. Universal's third theme park was a move to turn Universal Orlando Resort into a week-long destination. Well, that's going to make some people mad. I always get flack when I say Universal has 3 theme parks, not 4. As many times they talk about having 4 theme park destinations when it comes to Universal Studios, Mark Woodbury himself actually said 3 parks as well. So I think Mark Woodbury agrees with me.
But y'all don't say that.
So you can direct your hate to Mark Woodbury for those that always get mad at me anytime I mention this, but just want to throw that in there. Universal's third theme park was a move to turn Universal Orlando Resort into a week-long destination. With 3 theme parks and an immersive water park, Universal makes a strong case. While there was plenty of chatter leading up to the opening of Epic Universe, the question of performance was ready to be answered this summer. And here's what Mark Woodbury had to say. When asked about the future of Universal Orlando Resort, Woodbury outlined the work ahead and also shared some interesting early figures following the opening of Epic Universe. He said, yes, so when you look at what we're focused on, this business is really driven by creating a pipeline of great product, telling the world that you have it with really breakthrough marketing, and then maybe most importantly, delivering it with world-class service across the board to create that awareness, create that intent to revisit, and that's, of course, number 1, continue to drive that. He said, 2, get the message out to the outer U.S., continue to drive awareness, continue to drive share voice, and continue to drive business to the marketplace. And we think that we'll see you will continue to grow visitation to the market as well as take market share in the process. We think we'll drive incremental visits to the market and will drive share shift. And we're seeing that in the first 2 to 3 months of operations. I mean, he didn't release any details on numbers, which theme park destinations don't, but those are pretty poignant words, I guess you could say, in terms of the impact that they are seeing, at least on Universal's end. Woodbury then directly set his sights on Walt Disney World. I like a good fight. He noted that Disney has a number of projects in the works, but that Universal is well positioned to take market share despite what Disney has in the works. He says, I think we are in a really strong position to continue to drive incremental growth to the overall marketplace to take share in the process of that. Our chief competitor, Disney, is a strong competitor. They're going to be investing pretty heavily in the market too. I think it's a case of all ships rise with the tide. We'll both drive attendance to the marketplace and we'll be able to take our share of it. Disney was out there saying a lot about a rising tide lifts all boats type of situation, but that also goes both ways. And I've said that one as well. Yes, you can make the argument that Universal opening Epic Universe, obviously that could lead to people going to Disney World as well. But of course, also with Disney building the things they are going to build, if they do drive more attendance to their parks, it's very likely as well that will drive attendance to Universal Studios, because I think the new reality when you're talking about Disney World and Universal Studios is the fact that they are going to share an audience on some level. the success of one is also going to end up helping the other one potentially. Now, in terms of how much each one helps each other, that's obviously going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But if the rising tide lifts all boats that Disney likes to tout, that doesn't just go one way, that goes both ways, considering I think a decade ago, maybe that wouldn't have been the case as much, but I think now, given what Universal has really done the past decade, eating up about 10% of market share from Disney, this is the new reality, and I think this is only going to continue into the future. And now the interesting part, which is one reason I use this article, is because Blog Mickey, they're fans of Universal, they're fans of Epic Universe, but at their heart, they're Disney fans. And I think many times you see that through their coverage of it. So this is going to be interesting about the commentary that they have on this. So turning to some commentary, I think the discussion of market share is an interesting one. I'm not sure an early market share shift is entirely unexpected. I agree, but I would say many people online were basically trying to say completely the opposite, that Epic Universe was going to have no impact at all. It wasn't going to do anything to Disney World attendance or anything of that nature. Now, I don't think Blog Mickey ever said that, but I do agree that it is not only unexpected, it was basically just almost a given that was going to happen with this new park. It's a brand new theme park after all. In a summer where Walt Disney World had very little new to offer, I wouldn't be surprised by a market share shift to Universal. It's almost as if I was saying the entire time that shows and parades were not going to move the needle on attendance when it came to Disney World, which is why I also think that Disney recently had announced, they're adding Walt Disney to the Carousel of Progress. They're doing a bunch of plussing to some older attractions. They announced the launch bay is turning into the animation, experience in Hollywood Studios. I think given off the fact that very likely what we're going to end up seeing from the earnings call on some level, from the attendance reports that we eventually get about this summer, is the fact that Disney's attendance was pretty low. I mean, this was reported by multiple outlets that they hadn't seen this low of attendance since about 2021, 2022, somewhere around there for the summer. And really, I think it just goes to show when you, especially going up against a brand new theme park, shows and parades are not going to pull people over from that type of experience. So that's not surprising to me, but I think that may be some hard reality for some people. So if that is the case, that their attendance was down this summer, which I think their actions in recent months or so is kind of showing that, announcing new things that are going to likely be open by next summer. I think Disney, if they were hoping that shows and parades would move the needle, I think they may have got some real world data back that was showing that was not the case, and trying to get some experiences or new things on the board in between the time when these new things that they are building are going to be open. So I think they're looking for some quick turnarounds that they can tout as new things into the theme parks as they continue to compete with a new theme park being offered by their biggest competitor. So that said, let's do a brief exercise to see what could be happening. First, we'll use 5 tourists as our full market. We'll say that pre-Epic, Universal captured 1 of the 5, and the other 4 went to Walt Disney World. When discussing market share, it'll be interesting to see if Epic Universe brought a 6th person to Orlando, making the split 2-4, which is Disney and Universal, or if Universal stole 1 from Disney, making the split 2-3. In both scenarios, Universal gained market share, but in the first scenario, Epic brought in a new tourist to Orlando, which could play into the rising tide lifts all boats scenario that both Disney and Universal executives have been talking about for months. Of course, a whole host of other examples and questions exist too, as it relates to market share. I think the market share argument will be in a state of flux for at least another year, if not longer. Epic Universe still has some growth opportunities as it relates to ticket strategies. It is funny. Blog Mickey, they can never not mention Universal's ticketing strategy with Epic Universe. They act like, I don't know if they don't understand it, or I just don't think they like it. But it's been my contention the whole time, whether you like it or not, their ticketing strategy was very purposeful. They were doing it on purpose. And I think what we've seen with the results, that it has been working, considering you haven't seen cannibalization of the existing parks, which I think a lot of people thought would happen. You haven't seen that with Universal. And they have been limiting the attendance at Epic Universe because you do have a wait time issue with this park, as this park is still brand new, still working through a lot of its issues. So it's just funny to me. Every time Blog Mickey talks about it, they always have to bring in ticketing strategies. And, like I said, like it or not, it's a thing that they're sticking to, and I think they have liked how it's performed for them. Ultimately, what will be most interesting is to track whether Universal is able to hold some ground now that Epic Universe is open. Not sure how they wouldn't hold ground. For context, let's take a look at the past few years as it relates to attendance at Walt Disney World and Universal. The following table has been compiled from estimated attendance figures from the Themed Entertainment Association, also known as the T Report, the accepted industry standard for attendance estimations. As you can see below, Walt Disney World still holds the lion's share of tourism, but park-by-park numbers have tightened up since the COVID-19 shutdowns. In fact, in 2022, the two Universal theme parks both had higher attendance than the Walt Disney World theme parks, excluding Magic Kingdom. In 2023, the latest year with available data as of published time, the Universal theme parks both experienced a 1 million visitor drop. So it's pretty scary before a new theme park opens to potentially cannibalize that visitation further. I don't think it's pretty scary, considering I wonder if this is going to happen at Disney World as well, with new things coming to the parks under construction. So when you have the announcement that a brand new theme park is coming, I had always assumed especially when you get into the 1 to 2 years away of the new park opening, it's very likely a lot of people who would be planning to go on a vacation. And let's be honest, if you're going to go on a Disney World or Universal Studios vacation, you're going to be dropping a lot of money to do so. It would make a lot of sense for people that they would just basically wait for the new thing to come open. So if they're looking to go to Universal, they may just say, let's wait until Epic is open and then go on the trip. And I expected that with Universal in many ways, that their attendance would dip a bit before Epic opened. I think that's just kind of common sense, at least to me. But I think also at Disney, not only could they be competing with Epic Universe and what they have going on at Universal, 3 out of the 4 Disney parks are going to be under heavy construction for, at the very least, I would say 5 years. I mean, Bob Iger himself said in a Variety article that theme park construction for Disney basically takes at least 5 years. Now, unless they speed up construction timelines, I suppose they could. If we just go off past performance, Disney does not build quickly. So if you have all this construction going on in your parks, you could see a scenario where a lot of people, even if they want to go to Disney, may simply just say, let's wait until these new things open before we go and spend, $10,000 plus to go on a vacation. So Universal having a dip in their attendance right before Epic Universe opens is not surprising to me. And also, it wouldn't be surprising to me as well if Disney had a similar situation happen due to the construction they have going on, but also coupling that with Disney is the fact that Universal and what they're doing at Epic Universe. So, if that happens to Disney, that could be kind of a double whammy for them. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see on that, but, basically wanting to get most for your money and waiting till a new park opens. Later this month, 2024 attendance estimates will be released. It'll be interesting to see how Universal theme parks stack up against 2023 as tourists possibly postpone their vacations in 2024 for the May 2025 grand opening of Epic Universe. I think very likely you will see either flatline numbers for Universal or even more of a dip for Universal for 2024 numbers for that exact reason. Not going to be surprising one bit. And I think in many ways, you talk about Universal, you can break up Universal to pre and post Wizarding Worlds coming online. And I think in many ways, what will end up being the case is pre and post Epic Universe coming online when you're talking about, attendance numbers and revenue for Universal Studios potentially. Long story short, the theme park war is on. It's very true. According to Woodbury, Epic Universe is performing exactly like Universal had hoped, stealing some early market share during the opening summer months. As ticket structures, discounts, and new offerings come online, it'll be interesting to see where Epic Universe settles in. 2026 will be the first full calendar year that Epic Universe will be open. Disney doesn't have a lot of new to offer next year, with the Tropical Americas expansion planned to open in 2027. I do not think that the Tropical Americas is going to be done in 2 years. They just announced yesterday that Dinoland USA, or the Dinosaur Ride, was closing in February of 2026. I have a very hard time believing that they are going to turn around Dinosaur in 1 year for the Indiana Jones ride that's going in there. Now, again, maybe they do get motivated and really speed up their timelines, given if, what Woodbury is saying is true. They are seeing market share gains already. Disney sees a dip in their attendance this summer. That could be the motivating factor for Disney to be like, oh man, we need to hurry on these things, because I'm sure they want these things open as quickly as they can so they can have some new things to tout for the parks. I just have a hard time going off of Disney's recent history of construction that you're going to see the Tropical Americas be open by 2027. I suppose on some level, part of Tropical Americas could be open. I kind of feel like they're going to open it in sections. I don't feel like even if they were to get part of it open in 2027. You are not going to see the entire Tropical Americas be finished by 2027. All you can do is go off of past performance. If you're talking about, the best predictor of the future is pattern recognition of what someone has done before. If you apply this to people, let's say you have somebody who has some sort of problem in their life and they want to improve it, you can believe in that person and be like, man, I want you to do better. But until they show you and their recent behavior patterns change, there's nothing that basically indicates to you that it is going to change until you see that change. I'm just going to apply the same thing to Disney. Until they show that they can build quickly, I'm not going to assume that they are. So you can hope they do. You can think they will. I've never seen Disney do a turnaround on something that takes them basically a year to do. Look at Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. They announced the refurbing that, laying new track, and that is going to be closed for probably a year, if not longer. And that's just a refurb of one ride. That's not even building a land around it. I mean, Tron took 5 some odd years, and just look at the Epcot overhaul, how long that took. And I know people are going to say, oh, yeah, but it's COVID. Okay, well, Universal also built through COVID. Disney decided to not go that route that Universal did. But even Fantasyland, that was not a quick build or a quick expansion of what they did there either. So Disney, many times they haven't had the pressure to feel the need to build quickly, I think, in many ways. So that will be the one, I suppose you could just say, determining factor here is, does Disney feel the pressure to build quicker? And then do they spend the money to do it? Because I think many times Disney likes to spread out that money over multiple quarters instead of having more money taken out each quarter. I think that'll be the interesting part. But as it stands now, I just don't think Tropical Americas is going to be open by 2027. Epic Universe may come out of the gate swinging, but Walt Disney World will have a compelling lineup of new offerings starting in 2027, likely opening at a cadence of 1 new land per year for the next 5 years or so. Well, first off, I don't know if I would say Epic Universe has come out of the gate swinging, in the fact that I've also said Epic Universe is the weakest it will ever be during this time period. Again, a brand new theme park opening with all these new attractions. You are going to have to work through these, and we're seeing them work through this in real time. There's wait time issues. There's a question about, is there enough things to do in the park? And by the way, in the next video I'm going to do, which is going to be about more things that Mark Woodbury talked about during this conference, they are already saying they have things coming to Epic Universe. So I think they understand the wait time issue. They need more things for this park, and I think they're going to move on that very quickly. But with a new park, you're going to have operational issues. You're going to have a lot of things you are going to have to work through. So this park is nowhere near as strong as it is going to be, say, next year or the next couple of years. I guess you could say it comes out the gate swinging, because we do know from the first basically 1 month of Epic Universe being on their quarterly earnings report from the last one for Universal, that they saw almost a 20% increase in revenue. So in a way, yeah, it's coming out the gate swinging, but it's not nearly as strong as it is going to be. So you're already dealing with a situation, if you're Disney, that your competitor is only going to get stronger in this new park and its offerings. Said it's a race for the tourist dollar and market share, but we theme park fans are the real winners. Now, that much I completely agree with. I love competition. I love the fact that Mark Woodbury is out here saying that we're already seeing positive results from this. They're acknowledging that they are competing directly with Disney, which they have not been shy about. Disney is rather hesitant to mention Universal or Epic Universe many times. I think that they always felt if they mentioned it, they would draw attention to it. But Universal has never made qualms about it. They've even said they want to be the first choice in Orlando, and they're acting like they want to. Now, when you're talking about being the first choice, they have eaten a market share. They're very likely, from Mark Woodbury, saying they have eaten into more market share, which would also fit into what we've talked about before. This is a chart here. This is based off Moffett-Nathanson estimates. This is an article on Fast Company. And basically, their projection from 2024 till 2028 kind of shows how they predict attendance will go. And if Mark Woodbury is what he's saying here, that kind of fits into it. So you've got in here in the green, this is the Disney parks. They're estimating basically that their attendance from now until 2028 is basically going to be stagnant, starting at 54.9. They're going into millions here, and then going up to 57.7 million. So basically, a little bit of growth there toward the 2028. If, let's say, Tropical Americas, and this may include that. So I think what they're doing here is saying up until Tropical Americas opens, that it's going to basically be steady at 54.9 million, jumps up to 56, and 2028 jumps up to 57.7. So essentially, they would be saying that Tropical America's opening would gain them a couple million new visitors coming into the parks. When you look at Universal, they kind of show the existing parks as staying rather stagnant as well. But then you look at Epic Universe thrown into the mix. First year of 2025, about 5.2 million. 2026, 9.5 million. 2027, 10.2 million. And then up to 10.7 million in 2028. Obviously, these are just estimates, but under that scenario, Universal would be eating into market share. In that time period, that'd be about 5% that they've eaten into more. So essentially, since 2010, that would mean Universal had eaten into about 15% of market share from Disney. That's pretty significant. Again, Disney still is the market share leader. I mean, they are huge. They are massive, but Universal has been making strides eating into that market share. And I think when you're talking about Universal becoming much more of a competitor, forcing Disney to do the things they're currently doing, because I do not think that you would be having, 3 theme parks under construction for the next however long they're going to build, 5, 8+ years, if it wasn't for Universal and what they have been doing with Epic Universe being built. So it's forced Disney to invest more into their parks as they need to compete a bit more. And this is great for the consumer. So if you're a theme park fan, you have more things, more cool stuff to check out and choose from. And if you're talking about Disney historically, I mean, Universal was never really a competitor. They were there, and when the Wizarding Worlds came online, it definitely made a splash. They made about a 34% increase, or maybe it's 39% increase in their attendance in 2010 when Hogsmeade came online, and they were able to maintain that attendance. So once that came online, you saw Disney react very, like, oh man, we got to do something about this, which is why you saw Disney, announce Pandora. You saw Disney announce Galaxy's Edge. You saw Disney announce Toy Story Land. You saw them start heavily investing into these very similar type of lands that Universal built with the Wizarding Worlds, first Hogsmeade, then Diagon Alley. So Universal has been in many ways sort of, I guess you could say, forcing the issue when it comes to the theme park landscape in terms of innovation of new things, and Disney has been reacting to that. Now, Disney has still had the market share, of course, but Universal is kind of that hungry, up-and-coming team that is looking to really make its name here. Now, Mark Woodbury's statement about market share is very interesting because Mark Woodbury, again, this is the CEO of the Universal Parks. This is not some mid-level employee making a claim here. This is him going to an investor conference with Bank of America and making the claim that within 3 months of Epic Universe being open, that they are already seeing market share gains from Epic Universe when it comes to them and Disney. Now, I don't think he's making that statement as a guess, because you don't make those statements if you're just being hyperbolic. And Mark Woodbury is not a hyperbolic guy. Like, he's a very kind of low-key guy. You don't hear him out here making a bunch of bombastic statements about things. He would not be making those statements if he did not know that that was the case. Now, obviously, he's going to know Universal's actual attendance numbers. I have a strong, I'll just say, guess that he also knows Disney's. And of course, the reports have been out there about this summer at Disney, the attendance being as low as they've seen it since about 2021, 2022. I'm guessing he knows that. I'm guessing he has seen those numbers, and I'm guessing this is why he is saying that. And I think you're just going to continue to see a back and forth between these two destinations for the foreseeable future. I think I've been saying for a while, the next 10 years, I think Universal is showing in real time, and I think they're still going to announce more things at how aggressive they are going to be. And I think they are capitalizing off the momentum that they have after the last decade. Epic Universe being open, you've already seen them announce the regional parks, the kids resort, the Universal Horror Unleashed experiences that they're doing. And then their, Rip Ride Rocket's going away. Very likely more announcements. I've heard a lot of rumblings from people that I know at Universal that there's more stuff coming to the parks that they just haven't announced yet. As well, again, Mark Woodbury himself, which we'll talk about in another video, was talking about how Epic Universe has stuff in the works as well already. And I've been saying for a while, I think you will see things coming to Epic Universe sooner than most people, I think, would expect. I think a lot of people expect a brand new park to open, and it's going to basically stay how it is for a while before you see a new expansion or new things be added here. But I don't think that is going to be the case. I think you look at what they want Epic Universe to be, which is their Magic Kingdom, their flagship park, and you already seeing the high wait times here. You've seen, again, it's a great park, but it definitely has a wait time issue. There's questions about, is there enough rides in this park? And they obviously want to make as much money as they can from this park. And currently, last time I talked to the person I know at Universal, they said they have a park limit of about 22,000 guests currently day to day. They want that number closer to 40, 50,000 people per day that can get into this park. And you really can't do that until you get some of these wait times down. The only way you can really do that is to create more things to do. So I think they're going to probably surprise a lot of people by announcing some things. I'm going to say at the very least within the next 5 years for sure. But if I were to bet, and again, I'm not a betting man, but if I were to place a bet, I think within 2 years, we see some announcements about things coming to Epic Universe, if not even sooner. And you can see by the time Disney gets the things done that they are building, you can definitely see Universal having the replacement for Rip Ride Rocket done. Of course, there's the rumors there at Universal that that's going to be a Fast and Furious coaster, and then that would mean Supercharge would go away, which the rumor out there is that could be Back to the Future replacing it. So you could see multiple attractions being added to Universal Studios before Disney gets done with the things, or around the time Disney is done with their things they're building, which would mean does Disney then react to those new things? And like you're just going to see this back and forth from these two destinations. Again, which is great for the consumer. You're going to have them competing for your vacation dollar, which means they're going to present their best to try and get you to come to their destination, which is why I love competition. I think it's nothing but good things for the consumer. I think you're looking at a scenario here where Universal is just pedal to the metal. And I've also said many times, Disney's never been in this spot before. They've never had this much competition on the theme park side of things that they do right now. They are, they're the big dog still, but they're not as big as they used to be in terms of market share. And they've never been kind of forced in this position of having to react to a competitor like this. So it's a very interesting dynamic going on. And not to mention next year, they're going to have a new CEO. Very likely at this point, it looks like it's going to be Josh D'Amaro. What changes does he make? What kind of impact is he going to have? What is he going to do to put his stamp on the company? So there are lots of questions around Disney as a company, the Walt Disney World destination, and on top of the fact that you just have more competition from Universal. So it's a very interesting time period, very exciting time period. But I think that Universal is not making any qualms about what their intention is and their goal. And I think that Disney probably recognizes the threat of this more than they let on, considering the announcement they had at D23. I mean, you do not announce basically 4 new lands in your theme parks because you're not worried about your competitor down the road that's opening up a brand new theme park. So no matter what Disney says, I think their actions do show them that they probably on some level recognize, this is a real threat. We need to respond to this. And again, I think it's great for the consumer, and I'm here for it. But on this topic here, seems like Universal is very happy with Epic Universe. Seems like Mark Woodbury is very happy with the market share increase that he says they have made. And we will continue to see how Epic Universe performs for Universal closing out the year and going into next year. By the way, that is going to be it, though, for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think about Mark Woodbury's statement that Universal has already eaten into market share after just 3 months of Epic Universe being open? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.